Hey everyone, we're live, pal. Welcome back, Andrew Zarian. We haven't talked in a couple weeks here, and what I think what people, when you do a show with somebody, a lot of times the one of the few times you talk is on the actual show. So we've traded some text messages, but other than that, I haven't talked to you, so I have no idea what your takes are. So this will be kind of like a fresh thing for me too. We'll talk about the wrestling, talk about both companies, and I'll get to see what you have enjoyed and what you don't enjoy.
Yeah, it's been a nutty. I'm going into the fall, my busy season. I say this every time. Things kind of get really hectic for me, like September to about like a week or two after New Year's, and then it slows down, and then I'm back to normal. So, but I'm caught up on everything. I spent so many hours watching wrestling the last couple days to catch up, but all good stuff.
So I was wondering, are you wearing the NWO shirt because the BCC feels a little NWO-ish, or you just woke up and that was the first shirt you put on?
I play cutoff shirt roulette in the mornings. I just spin the wheel, and whatever it lands on, that's what I'm putting on.
Hey, I have to go turn something off in the house that just turned on for some reason. This is live, so give me 10 seconds and I'll be right back.
Garrett's television or radio just turned on, yelling at him. I'm trying to figure out what that sound was. But, that's so funny because this morning when I put this shirt on, he does have a point. I was thinking about what are the topics that we're going to talk about. Sometimes I like to match it up, And I did not have the title that we picked as an idea here.
Okay. Just checking because, I was there live at Dynamite last week, and there was a very NWO-ish feel amongst the live crowd that I thought. Though, unfortunately, when there's only 3,000 people in the building, it can't be like it was in WCW days. But I just we'll table that conversation. I want to save it for the back half. We'll save it for the back half, and let's talk about it. But I wanted to talk about Raw first, and just WWE in general, to see where you are, because I like to check in with people to see what where they're. We're in 2-hour Raw territory now, and have those shows felt as important, as strong? Have they changed for you in any way now that we're back to 2 hours, at least till the end of the year?
This was the first 2-hour show that was better, I would say. The last 2 weeks, those last two 2-hour shows were not good, in my opinion. I did not enjoy them. But look, there's continuity now, right? They're figuring it out, and it sometimes takes a while. It's not the same writing team. They have a larger roster that they need to figure out what you're going to do because you have an hour less of content. It's been better. I mean, this Monday was a better show than the last 2 weeks. Do you think the same, or am I off here?
No, I've actually heard that from a couple different people. When I watch, like, for one, we talked about this Hulu cut of the 3-hour Raw that I was really into because they chopped out a lot of the extra fluff or the acts that just weren't over and they're trying to give them some airtime. That 90-minute cut out all that stuff. Now with only 2 hours, I zip through the entire thing, and there's less video packages, there's less promotional stuff that you would see on the 3-hour show. So I think that's a positive.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's a constructive comment. Okay. King of Strong Style. For over 10 years, people like you guys cry and scream for a 2-hour Raw, and you just complain and you complain, and you finally got it, and it's not good. Listen, put on a captivating fucking show for me to tune into and to be engaged. Why? I'm not talking about the hours. We know they're not capable of doing that consistently with 3 hours. I don't care that it's a 3-hour show. They have not been capable of putting on a captivating 3-hour program 3 out of the 4 weeks out of the month.
I also like how
now they have a 2-hour show.
It's our fault instead of WWE's fault.
Listen, it's not a good show. I mean, they have some really good elements, but it's not a good show. It's fine. It's fine. You like wrestling. That's what you want to watch. It's fine. I thought this week was better. If I could finish a thought, my point was going to be they're on the verge of kind of figuring it out. This is not a biased bullshit comment that I make. I don't give a fuck what promotion it is. I don't care who the promoter is. I don't care if it's Jon Moxley or Roman Reigns. I just want to watch something good.
Yeah.
And if you're going to tell me that the 3-hour era was really good content, then you're fucking out of your mind because it was terrible. It was not good. It had elements. It had weeks that was pretty good. It had matches that were really good. But you're going to tell me that for the entirety of the last decade of the 3-hour program, it was a great show to watch? No, it wasn't. You got to be honest about what you like and what you don't like. You got to be honest. You can't be blinded by a promotion. And I'll say the same thing about AEW. I don't think the content has been the same that it was in 2021 and 2022. 2023 was a bad year. Do they have elements that's great? Sure. Do they have elements that's good? Sure. Consistently, it's a better show than a 3-hour show. I don't want to see AEW do a 3-hour show. This whole you guys bullshit is so insane to me. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. People fighting and arguing over professional wrestling is such a low-level mindset to have in life. These are dumb people. They're not bright to sit there and argue for hours and hours over millionaires that are playing a character on television. It's really a dumbfounding way to have a discussion. It baffles me. Every week I go online and I see the same stupid comments from the same stupid people. These are not bright people. These are not high-functioning, high-society functioning people. These are people that sit on Twitter and they just argue with people for 7 hours out of the day. I sit there sometimes and I look at the comment. Like I get a comment and I'll look at all the stuff that they've written. And I'm like, this guy put out 50-something tweets in a matter of 3 hours. What are you doing with your life? Stop being a loser. That is loser mentality. Stop being a loser in life. Just watch your fucking show and like it. If you don't like it, then don't watch it. Why are you watching something you don't like?
I actually, I love the fire. We're starting out hot.
It's wild.
We haven't been on this show in a couple of weeks. And, you know, King of Strong Style, I sent him $5. It was like reverse super chat. And I said, hey, get Andrew fired up. I want fiery Andrew on this show. So thanks to King of Strong Style.
Well, he did because he made a stupid comment. He
made a
dumb comment.
This is like, I was thinking of going in this direction and I wanted to get your point of view on it because I made the choice. This is my choice. I have been kind of anti-Twitter, especially in the pro wrestling space for quite a while. I was like, why do I bother with these people? And so I decided to kind of lean the opposite way. And I go, you know what? I want to see what people are truly frustrated with and what people are happy with, you know, from both sides of the company. Now there are WWE troll accounts, which you just mute them and because they're not there to have discussion. They're there to carry water. And so, you know, and there's some on AEW side as well. And so when I dug in, and this is like over the span of a few years where I had this mentality that the AEW hardcore fan base, they may love AEW and they may defend AEW, but they sort of come at it from a pretty smart mindset. Like they try and stay unbiased. They try and actually weigh the pros and cons. And that was kind of my thought, you know, from when I stopped really following this stuff closely. So when I came back, I was amazed that I wouldn't say that the AEW hardcore Twitter followers or Twitter following is as sort of dishonest as the most dishonest WWE folks, but it's actually gotten a lot closer, I think, in mentality. Like, and I'll even raise it on this network. Brian was getting memed for saying something about wanting a specific thing about the product, and they're not announcing matches before the shows and this and that. And so, it was funny because in the early days of AEW, the joke is that Brian and Dave were in the bag for AEW because they represented a community that wanted a fresh product, and AEW was that fresh product to counter the very stale WWE. And so because of that, it was like, oh, they're in the bag. And now,
but I will tell you though, Garrett, it's the same. It's the same exact thing. The same people.
I'm starting to see that. I'm starting to see that, and it surprised me. And that is, again, that's some of my own naivete because I've been out of really following Twitter that closely. But my point is now that a lot of those people who were like, yes, Brian and Dave, we love your AEW coverage. Now that they're being a little bit more critical on AEW, now it's the other way. Oh, Brian and Dave don't pay attention. They're not. And to me, it's like the same coverage. They've been covering wrestling shows on this website since 2005 together, and then previously in years past. But why do you think that the momentum shifted that way? Like, why are there just as many dishonest AEW folks as there are WWE folks? Is it because they realize that AEW is kind of in a little bit of a downswing creatively and popularity wise, and they need to kind of like, cover them or something? Like, what is the reason for it, do you think?
I think there is a very common mindset where people cannot engage positively at all if they believe you may have a slightly different mentality. Okay, I'm going to give you a great example. We went to that 2021 show, right? That All In show. We talk about it all the time. Okay?
Fantastic.
I'm going to give
you
a
favorite
great
shows
example.
ever.
You were with me that entire trip. You and I speak. Yeah. I mean, we made a joke. We were commenting. We haven't spoken in a couple of weeks, but we talk regularly about professional wrestling.
Yes.
You know what my mindset is about professional wrestling. So does Dave. So does Brian. I talk to. I mean, three people to talk about wrestling these are high caliber people. You, Dave, Brian, even Sean Rossap. I talk to him regularly also about wrestling. I have a group of people that I speak to. We went to that show. I had the time of my life. I thought it was the best show. I really enjoyed it. My wife was there. She enjoyed it. Rich was there. Our producer, John, was there. The first comment that I see is from somebody from this, that is a subscriber of this website, okay? Making up lie after lie about how I didn't want to be there, how I wasn't even dressed for the occasion, how they listened to me explain. It was somebody sitting in front of us, and I know exactly who the fucking guy is, by the way. I know exactly who that person is. They made up all these lies about how I didn't want to enjoy it. I don't want to be there. And I'm thinking, I'm like, you can't fucking win. You can't win at all. You say one thing that is off center of somebody's thought process, and all of a sudden now you're the extreme.
Yeah.
And it's gross. It really, to be honest, it turns me off to all of this. It really makes me think like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm talking to these idiots and losers daily about wrestling, and they don't even appreciate it. Some of these people, most of them are great. 99% of them are fantastic. You engage, you have great conversations, you talk about it. You get accused of being in the WWE pocket. You're in the AEW pocket. I get this every day. I can't be in both people's pocket. It's mind-blowing. It comes from a really bad place. People are damaged, okay? And they watch sports and they watch television with that same damaged mentality. Enjoy your goddamn life. Watch what you're watching. This guy, King of Strong Style, he's a fucking idiot in the chat room. I'll tell you. Everyone is an idiot and a loser. Yeah, when you make dumb comments constantly, regularly, you're an idiot. You're not a normal functioning person. And it's a cesspool with all fandom. Fandom is disgusting to me now. It's wild. Why can't somebody watch what they enjoy? And if they're not into something, guess what? Okay, this is not for me anymore. I'm not into this topic. Very simple. But it's happened in wrestling, and it's happening in AEW. And listen, there are people that were huge AEW fans, right? And now they've jumped on that hating train. Same goes for WWE. There were years that I watched, and people would tell me, why are you still watching WWE? Why are you watching WWE? Watch AEW. It's the same fandom, same obsessive, gross fandom. I take the train every day. There's a conductor on there. He has an AEW pin. I think it's a world-class T-shirt on. The guy gave me a nod. I gave him a nod. He said, I like your shirt. I said, I like your pin. And that's it. That's how normal people engage.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Can I say one thing, which is that I like what you mentioned. 99% of the people are fine. And look, we're talking about a small minority viewpoint because of how the Twitter algorithm works. You just see a lot of this activity. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying all AEW hardcore fans are like this, all WWE hardcore fans are like this. I'm talking about like the really obsessive ones that are out there in social media, and many of them,
but those are the ones with the voice.
This word
those
is a
are the
little
ones
weird.
With the voice.
They're influencers in a sense, right? People follow them. People want to see what they have to say next. There are some really, really, really bad faith ones that are popular for some reason. And there are some really quality accounts that are rightfully so influencers as well. So I was just specifically talking about some of the folks who just, for whatever reason, I saw them as like really well-reasoned fans who are not well-reasoned anymore. And I think it's because of this competition that we've seen. And maybe you have to defend your brand if your brand is not doing a good job defending themselves. So that being said, and I think you articulated your feelings on that well. You have a unique experience in that you have a lot of followers. So you're going to see
I got
people...
death threats from Mercedes Monet. I got death threats.
Oh, from her fan base?
from her fan base, because I reported that she was going to AEW. I got death threats. It's insane.
You have a lot of followers, so your Twitter
it's not, though,
mentions are going to look a little bit different than the majority of us.
It's nothing, and I really don't post controversial things. I post news. When's the last time you saw me post my opinion where I belittled somebody's liking? Never. Yeah. Even if it's a bad match, I'll say yikes or whatever. I don't attack wrestlers. I don't attack the fans. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, so we started out on fire. I want to bring it down a little bit because I want to talk about where WWE and AEW are right now as we are late October. WWE, we know WrestleMania season. They're going to kick it into gear. By the way, what did you think about what Dwayne posted to somebody on Instagram after Meltzer reported that as of right now, he was not scheduled to be on WrestleMania? Did you see what he posted on somebody's Instagram thing?
Yeah, essentially saying like, don't listen to bullshit or something, right?
Yeah. He's kind of cornered himself to have to do the show now, right?
I mean, now he has to show up. He
does.
He can't let Dave be right. I would say it would be too early. You know, Dwayne. The WWE statement is always, if Dwayne wants to do something, we will.
Yeah, and he's a busy guy. He's got that Christmas movie coming out. He's got the Smashing Machine movie coming out soon as well. So, you know, I know he's given us a little bit of himself, and I say us, I mean wrestling fans. Last year, the build up to Mania. This year, I'm assuming there will be some of that, but who knows? Based off of Dave's report, maybe he does have to change some plans so that he's not a liar. But that is WWE. They will kick into gear around Royal Rumble. I'm sure the War Games match at Survivor Series is going to be sort of dominating their TV up until then. The Bloodline stuff, very cool, though it doesn't feel as cool as it was, you know, probably this time last year.
I thought that SmackDown segment was really good, though, with Jay. He did fantastic. I like that whole thing about how he's like, why'd you get Tama? Why'd you get Tonga? Why'd you get him, Jacob? There's a reason why we don't talk to Jacob. Like, they made, it really seems like Jacob Fatu is going to be the star here, right? He's fantastic. He's really something special. But they really built this as like, why'd you bring this dangerous animal? You know, he's shunned by the family, and you brought him. Just adding more to it. I definitely wanted to hear more. Going to be great.
I wanted to hear more of that story, which I hope they're going to delve into. And Jay can get that message across because he's white hot as a babyface. Like, the fans believe in what he says. They're behind him, and just fantastic job that they've done with him as a babyface. So let's stay on the Jey Uso thought train here. He lost to Braun Breaker. He lost his Intercontinental Championship. That entire match was a little bit of background for this Bloodline war. I was a little disappointed, and I don't know if this was a time thing, because I actually wanted to see more match. I wanted to see more match between two guys who are crazy over with the audience. And I thought it was too much Bloodline stuff. But if you listen to the crowd, that's the stuff that they were popping for. So I don't blame them for it, but just my personal taste was I wanted to see these guys go toe-to-toe a little bit more than they did. There were a lot of heavy angles, heavy interference stuff that was on the show last night. But what did you think of the Braun Breaker and Jey Uso changing of the title?
I was thinking, how are they going to pull Jey out of this and have him involved with the Bloodline? And they did it, and they did a good job at it. It was a lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of stuff happening, sure, but they were trying to do. I'm curious, are they going to bring in who's going to be the next guy, because they need another person, right?
Yes.
I don't want it to be Cody. I think it has to be Sammy. You put together the original Bloodline, and you get, Paul Heyman comes back, which I'm sure he's coming back soon because he's going to probably be at that ECW show, the ECW Arena show. What a great setup. And you could introduce somebody else during War Games that maybe cost Roman's team the match. You could do that. I'm kind of getting back into the Bloodline stuff. I think this was, Roman coming back, having Cody involved. I didn't like that. I think Cody needed to be away from this and to do something else and let Roman handle business. And then you could come back to Cody. Just a really good momentum here going into Survivor Series.
I like Jimmy and Jey a lot. So the more I see them on my television, I like those guys. Are just two guys. You're like, I would love to hang out with those guys and just chit chat. Like those are how I've always felt about them, as good as they are as a tag team as well. So I'm always pro Usos. The Roman thing has been interesting though. Him as a babyface has been a little bit different because he's been such a great heel for the last 4.5 years, and now he's got to do a little bit more babyface stuff. The transition is fun. I think it's good. I don't know if he's like knocked it out of the park quite yet with the babyface turn, but it's gonna be great. It's gonna be interesting. It's perfect stuff for what WWE fans want out of their storytelling. So I'm totally fine with it. It just feels like last year we were at the precipice of this thing fully being, finished or finalized with Roman losing the title to Cody. There was like real momentum there. And I'm not sure that momentum exists yet, but like I said, we have Survivor Series coming. Last year at Survivor Series was CM Punk coming back, which was another kick in the pants for the company. And so I'm sure we'll see more of those things coming, because they have stars like Charlotte Flair who seem to be at least close to being ready, who they can re-debut. But I do sense that it's a little bit of a holding period for right now. They got to get through Crown Jewel, and then Survivor Series, and then Saturday night's main event, and then the very first ever Netflix show. And I think once those shows happen, we'll be full on like WrestleMania mode for WWE. But a couple other things I wanted to ask you about Raw specifically. Do you think, so we saw Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, and this kind of ties into our discussion about the 2-hour Raw. When you have a shorter show, you don't have to go back to so many similar ways of booking, because you don't have to stretch out that third hour. The Seth and Bronson Reed scenario where they're attacking each other in the back and they're interrupting segments, I feel like they've done that a lot more of late. And this was the first time where I was like, okay, this is kind of getting old. Is there another way for these guys to show their hatred for each other? Why does it have to be these backstage fights and then you go to a segment and then they're still fighting backstage throughout the whole show? Like, did you find that to be a little, going to the well one too many times, or did you still find it to be, okay as a way to kind of build on the feud?
I think it's okay to build on the feud, right? Sometimes you gotta what's familiar to you, and that's what you gotta do. I don't really have that much of a problem with it. I think it's fine.
I guess I would just like to see more variety, or creating more ways that you can go back to show, to show these feuds bubbling over. It just came it was a little same for me in that segment. And also sort of similarly, I feel like Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan is a little on a treadmill. You kind of, it's the same thing that happens over and over and over again. She's going to beat up Liv. She's going to beat up Dom. And I get it. They have Crown Jewel. You got to get through Liv and Nia first, and then maybe you get back to Liv and Rhea. But I just sense that there's a little bit of like repeat storytelling, almost like they have like one too many weeks of television that they were prepared for or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the Liv stuff is, I'm curious where it goes, because Rhea is obviously the big star in that company, right?
Yes.
She's
still
the focus
crazy
here.
over. Crazy.
And she's impressive. She's really impressive. So, and I have to tell you, Liv has gotten so much better on promos. This act is working for her tremendously. I very much like it. But once this is over, what's next? Mm-hmm. That's, what happens to Damian? If you think about it, what's Damian doing now that he's not in the Bloodline? He's not the champion. Obviously, he's going to feud with Finn. He's continuing that, but
it looks like Gunther. It looks like Gunther's next in some way.
After the Cody
after
match.
Crown Jewel, yeah.
So maybe that's the Rumble match. Maybe that's December. All
right, we got to bring up the elephant in the room.
Series.
We got to bring up the elephant in the room. There's been some reporting on this today from Sean Ross Sapp and Brian Alvarez as well. Carlito was in a segment after Io and Kyrie were talking to Adam Pearce. And Carlito comes in after them, and he kind of overhears them, and he makes a reference to learning Chinese or something. And we know those women are Japanese.
Yeah.
That comment is an 80s comedy trope, right? Oh, we can't tell the difference from all of these, Asian people, depending on, if you're Chinese or Japanese or Korean. Like, that's the joke, right? Oh, you can't tell the difference between how these Asian people look. That was an 80s joke. We are 30, 40 some odd years away from that. And what it sounds like, and now at least this is the reasoning given, was that Carlito ad-libbed that line. And I don't know. I mean, not that I hope one way or the other, but this is the problem. Going back to how last time we discussed this, how Triple H answered that question about color, how he sees color and he doesn't see color and blah, 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 blah. Like, culturally, WWE should be kind of beyond the Asian tropes. And I'm not saying that AEW doesn't have them. I think AEW completely has them. The one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Kazuchika Okada, seems to be stuck in this like silly Asian fish out of water wrestler in the United States trope. Shibata as well, using his phone to talk for him. So there is this is happening in current wrestling today. But when you are Triple H and you stand up and you have a statement like that, every time something happens on your show that does not vibe with the point you were trying to make, it's just going to be circled right back to you, which is why his statement was wrong and bad and not great PR, all of that. But this culture, we go back to this culture, like Carlito felt like his character, that was something that would come out of his mouth if we are to believe the reports as they have been stated. And it's just disappointing that something like that makes television. Scrap Daddy could have quickly diffused what he said and, stopping an idiot. You know that these women are Japanese, but maybe he didn't want to put a bullseye on that statement. But it's just stuff like that where it feels like we should be beyond that in wrestling, but there are moments that keep pulling me back to the 80s that are just unfortunate that they happen. I didn't know what you thought about that, or if it even bothered you when he said it, because I think it would have went over a lot of people's heads if it didn't get retweeted so much on social media.
No, I mean, when I heard it, I first I thought, I can't believe someone wrote that, right? And then now I'm thinking, listen, for all that WWE is, right? For what they were, they're a little blind to some stuff, but not that blind to make that comment.
Yeah.
I can't see them writing this and it getting approved and it going on TV. Maybe, my main thing that I thought was, oh crap, Carlito messed up. He meant to say Japanese.
Yeah. Had he said Japanese, I think the line would have been fine, because he's still a goofy heel who's, probably dumb. I think that's part of his character, just being a little dumb, a little naive.
Yeah.
And if he did say that, I think that would have been fine. But and here's the thing, right? Is there was that story in the Rolling Stone about whether or not Vince McMahon, the culture that he created, still exists backstage, right? Like that was kind of the big piece of that story. And there have been two storylines recently that have reminded me of Vince McMahon. And the first one is that Chelsea Green, because she got dumped in a garbage can, now she just smells. She can't get the stink off of being stuck in the garbage. Like, that is a Vince McMahon storyline. So silly. Nobody who's older than 3 years old laughs at this. And you have Michael Cole, your lead announcer, saying he's going to puke just because Chelsea Green is standing next to him. So you had that. Yeah. And then you had this Carlito thing. Now, based on what has been reported, he kind of went into business on his own with the ad lib. So, but it's just, if that culture exists where he believes that is the right thing to say in this moment, that's why these Rolling Stone pieces are going to keep being written. They really have they have to button down this stuff, because I hope it's an eye opener. And what I hope is, and this is like what you do, like if you're a tech company, right? And the website goes down for an exorbitant amount of time because it can't hold the traffic, you kind of get a symposium and you bring everybody together and go, okay, why did this happen? How do we prevent it from happening in the future? I hope Triple H, as head of creative, gets together with his writers and goes, okay, how do we create an environment where talent does not do or does not think that is the right thing to do? What do we have to do? Maybe it's not creative.
I hope it was an accident. I hope that he was, you're on TV. It's live. Your brain is firing every different direction on what you're going to say and how it's going to look. It's very possible he meant to say Japanese. And if he did say, I should learn Japanese, that would be we wouldn't even be talking about this. Yeah, if it was a slip of the tongue and it was a boo-boo, no problem. If he ad-libbed it and he thought, hey, I'm going to get this joke over, I don't know. WWE has to make it. I'm sure they're going to address it. They're going to address Carlito and say, what the hell are you doing? Why would you think that that's in 2024 for you to say that? Yeah. If it's an accident, then it's an accident, and I don't think there should be any blame on him for just thinking whatever he thought. But if he went in there and he's like, I'm going to get this joke in, that's weird to do.
Yeah. I guess my prevailing point is if we're going to do Bad Man Gone means everything negative left with Vince when he left, we can't also have these miscues like this. We kind of got to be on our best behavior right now. Okay, so the other thing, and I know you covered this on your show earlier today, but Samantha Irvin is gone. Now, I don't know if it would have been a big deal at any other part in wrestling history when a ring announcer leaves, but she made quite the impression on folks. I enjoyed her. I thought her passion for her job was awesome. I know there are some people who didn't like kind of her the way that she enunciated certain things. I thought she was great. And, it just still goes to show you that when it comes to wrestling, you're not truly an independent contractor, because it sounds like she had wanted to do some other things with her career that just were not allowable while also working for WWE. But wish her well. And Lillian is back. Lillian didn't have the greatest first day back on the job, but it was nice to see her face again, because I've always been a Lillian fan as well. But did you have any thoughts about Samantha? And I know people are kind of wondering if she'll eventually end up in AEW. Wouldn't surprise me. But thoughts on her leaving?
I thought she was good. I thought she was different, and that's part of it. You don't want to be a robot. Everybody's different. Everybody had a different voice that's taken that position. Lillian had a very different voice after Fink. Tony Chimmel had a different voice as well. I wasn't as affected by her. She's a ring announcer for a television show. She's doing what she's doing. I thought she was pretty good. I don't know if she's going to AEW. Apparently she's not, according to Ricochet. She's concentrating on her music career and everything else she wants to do, which is great. And, she got to do something really, really cool. That's something that she wanted to do. She is a wrestling fan. And she did a lot of her homework, and she was extremely, extremely well liked there. Extremely well liked. People were surprised that she was going, but she had communicated this months ago that she was leaving. It wasn't a overnight decision.
I would like to see her do some boxing.
Boxing commentary. Oh man.
Well, just ring announcing. Just do boxing ring announcing, right? For these, because Michael Buffer was one of the folks who retweeted her and gave her props. So I would like to see her do some boxing stuff for some big fights. And
why not?
I mean, I don't know anything, but if it's not the worst thing for her to fall back on and be able to just do some AEW stuff as well. Look, there's also indie stuff that she could do if she just keeps her toe in the wrestling business. And I guess her toe's always going to be in the wrestling business as long as her and Ricochet are partners. All right. So last thing, actually, let's move on to AEW, because I was live at Dynamite on Wednesday. And Dave Meltzer's birthday is Thursday, by the way, for people, if you want to wish Dave a happy birthday on Thursday. I hung out with Dave on Friday. We kind of did an early birthday dinner thing for him. And so he asked me about San Jose. What'd you think about the Raw at San Jose? We were both there. I know he stayed through the Rampage stuff. I did not. And I think he even did some, talk to folks there and such. So I thought, now I hold my Bay Area, San Jose, California, to very high esteem, right? We are the Silicon Valley. We have all of these sports teams. We're pretty happening place, pretty big market. And so if we go back to last year, Tony Khan does AEW Revolution in San Francisco. Great show. He ran the Cow Palace, the Dynamites before. Those shows were, that building sucks. So not the happiest time for me. But I thought, you know what? Right after Revolution, he kind of set the blueprint for the Bay Area. He put on an A show, and the Bay Area market, maybe he's created some goodwill, and he can come back and do good business. Then in November of last year, he does Rampage, which was one of the worst cards for a wrestling television show, just on paper. That, if I had known what some of those matches were beforehand, maybe I don't go. I probably still do go. The wrestling was fine. It just didn't feel like it was an important show. So then I thought, coming into Dynamite last week, I'm like, you know what? That Oakland show did not sell. The market is not really on fire for AEW. He's got to put his best foot forward. So post Wrestle Dream, we don't even have a match until I think Saturday or Sunday for that Dynamite. Heading into that Dynamite, I think we know Christian and Jay White. We know Mercedes and Queen Aminata. Maybe we know some segments, but that's really it. And so when Dave asked me, what'd you think? I was like, he didn't put his best foot forward from the perspective of trying to sell tickets, and San Jose, rightfully so. I think there were 3,000, maybe a little bit over 3,000 tickets sold for that show. So the same issues that all these other markets have been having with AEW not being hot, that's what I felt for that Saturday show. It was not a bad show in the building, though. I've been to so many Monday Night Raw shows, even one that stopped me from going to Raw entirely. It was so bad. And it wasn't that bad, but it also wasn't great. Like, I've been to 3 Raws in San Jose over the last 2 years that felt like a rock concert. And this last Dynamite on Wednesday felt like a wrestling show in which, for the majority of the show, people are just lightly applauding or sitting on their hands for the most part. So I don't say that to just shit on AEW. That's not why I mentioned it. But, you know, when you come back to markets, like, you got to bring your A game. I think I counted all the people that were on WrestleDream. The majority of those people were not in the building on that show in San Jose. So you're not bringing all of your stars, or at least who you told us were stars on the pay-per-view. You're not bringing those folks to television. San Jose, I can't imagine he's coming back anytime soon. And if he does, you know, he can't run that building. That building, that's where the San Jose Sharks play. That, you know, they're putting 15,000 people. I've been to WWE pay-per-views. You know, I've been to WWE Raws during the Attitude Era where you couldn't even find a ticket. So yeah, I was frustrated. But otherwise, like, how was the show on television for you on Wednesday?
It was fine. It was fine. It was an okay show. You know, how was the energy in the building?
Light applause.
Light applause. And it came off like that. Okay,
I'll tell you how they got it. I tell you who they got excited for. Okada, who had I don't know, I'm trying to remember what Dave gave the star rating of earlier this year in January. We saw Okada and Ospreay in San Jose, not in that building, but for Battle in the Valley. We saw Okada Ospreay. We've seen Okada Tanahashi, I think, as well, the year before. So Okada has been in some really, really good matches in San Jose. So it's of no surprise at all that when he came out with that great entrance as well, that he was going to get a loud pop. Adam Cole, to come out first, got a really, really nice reception. And then when he did his promo, I think everyone was kind of looking around going like, huh? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And so it was a little stunted. But the problem is, when you have MJF on the big screen, when you have Chris Jericho on the big screen, when you have Swerve Strickland on the big screen, the live crowd is not going, yay, I get to see these big stars on the screen. They're going, oh, we aren't deserving of those people inside the building. So it's kind of like a slap in the face. And it was unfortunate because I think San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland, the Bay Area, there is room out here for AEW, but not the shows that Tony has been bringing to us. Just not good enough. Not good enough for a market that has so many things to do, so many things going on. Big city in San Francisco, San Jose, you know, there's stuff to do. Like, we are not a small town that is happy to see when an event comes, right? Like, it's just not the way that this market works. So I was pretty frustrated with what he thought was a good show to bring to the market.
Yeah, you know, they are cold, okay? They are cold. And I don't know what the correction here for them is. Is it more captivating stories to tell, right? That's one. Is it more matches like we were getting in 2021 on AEW TV? Is it a combination of both? Do you need to put those kind of matches? I don't, you know, the perception is that it's a cold promotion. I don't necessarily feel that way when I watch it every week. There are moments that it's cold. There are moments that things aren't great, but I generally tend to enjoy that show. And the same goes for, listen, I felt that way about WWE. WWE pay-per-views are fine, and SmackDown is fine. But for AEW, going from a product that we had banger and banger and banger to, there's 2,000 people in a building, and you're in a big building. So you have to change that perception. You change that perception with marketing it properly. You change that perception by hiring the right people. And how many fit in that building that you were at?
For wrestling? With their big stage, the last time WWE Raw ran, I think it was just under 14,000, and WWE had like 13,800 or something like that.
And listen, and you're drawing 2,000, and you're drawing 2,500, and you're drawing 3,000. It's a difficult thing. Ticketing is a very difficult thing. Convincing people to leave their freaking homes and to come in and watch your product is a difficult thing.
That is free for them to watch on television, by the way.
That's free to watch on TV. So every AEW show that I've been to, I've had a great time, and I've enjoyed every show that I've been to. Are there weeks that the TV is not, it's like, okay, it was fine? Yeah. But again, you're not appealing to me. I'm not the one that you should be appealing to if you're trying to grow, because I'm going to watch it every week because I like wrestling.
Yeah.
I watched wrestling that most people never watch. I've been watching a lot of Mid-South. I've been obsessively watching Mid-South.
Really?
I put it on and I watch it for like 2 hours.
Are you watching it on Peacock, or are you watching it on YouTube?
I've watched some on Peacock, but I'm watching a lot on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm watching it like randomly, and then it's like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and next thing I know, it's like 2 hours. I'm down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it, and I find it interesting. That is a very small percentage of people that would be willing to do that now.
Yeah.
That's not the same person that you're trying to draw into a building that fits 14,000. Maybe it is. Maybe that is who they should go after, but there's not too many of those. How do you change that perception that this is not a hot ticket item? It's not must-see TV. It is for some, for us. How do you grow that audience? They need to figure that out. I think that's where the issue is.
And, for AEW, starting this week, NBA is back. College football, pro football, all that is ongoing. Thankfully for AEW, pro football has not started running on Wednesdays.
I know that's generally, and there is a statistical, obviously, the math always maths here, right? If there's a hot event, like I watched a lot of baseball last week. I did not watch wrestling live as much. I watched it on delay. What percentage of people does that impact? I don't know, but it's not just the hot ticket, items that you're competing with, like the MLB playoffs and football's back or whatever. You're competing with everything. You're competing with TikTok. You're competing with YouTube. You're competing with just life, anything and everything. Instagram. How do you have to make it must-see TV? You have to. There's no choice. There's no way around it. If you don't, then you're gonna dwindle your numbers.
So let's talk about the Mox BCC story. Jon Moxley is the AEW champion again after beating Bryan Danielson in what was a really good match that then kind of turned my stomach because of the angle at the end. But hey, that is where they are leaning. They are very much leaning into this group that is kind of taking over the company. But I wanted to ask you, before I even gave my perspective, because I've thought about this a lot and just had conversations with people about what they may be trying to do. But I wanted to hear your thoughts first, because then that may also color my perspective of where I think that they're going. But does AEW have the infrastructure to do an NWO like angle to where they can pull it off? It's not going to be like WCW. WCW had Hulk Hogan back then. But do you sense that this is a good path for them to kind of reinstill some of the things that we were just talking about?
I like the what are they going to do next, right? And the BCC being so dominant and killing everybody, and then you ending the show. I like that. I like that. It's familiar to me, right? It's how they ended Raw every week. Jim Ross screaming, "Oh my God, what's going to happen next?" And then it fades black. and we spoke about that, right? And they tried to do that in December of 2021, and it did not go well. I don't know where they're gonna go. I don't know if there's more members. I don't know if there's a leader. I don't know what's in the briefcase. Maybe that's the lockbox Shane was talking about. I don't know. I don't feel an NWO thing, but I kind of see how people can, and it's not a negative. I think that's a positive. I just don't know where they're going to go with this. You know, what's Moxley talking about?
Yes.
Does he bring in people?
Initially, it sounded like there was somebody behind what they were doing, right? Like there was like, I think Excalibur said, you know, who's pulling the strings or whatever. I forget the
and that was well, on the pay-per-view, Tony Schiavone kept talking about, you know, who's making these calls. And then on Dynamite, or no, Collision, right? Was it Collision?
Mm-hmm.
Or Dynamite? Yeah, I can't remember which one.
Might have been both,
they were kind of
actually.
like, it might have been both. They were alluding like, oh, it's Moxley's plan.
Right.
So I don't know if something didn't fall through or plans changed. I don't know. Maybe it was just verbiage that was being used that, you know, there was not too much thought put into it.
Okay. My thought, and I'm just basing this on what I can understand from Moxley's promos, because I think he's being specifically vague about some things. Maybe to give themselves leeway to go in a couple different directions. It sounds to me like he is angry at AEW wrestlers who came in after him. He helped create the successful company. He himself went through the indies. If you read his book, he describes all of sort of his pathways into where he became a wrestling star. Had to go through a lot in WWE, unhappy for a lot of his time in WWE. So he's got all of this experience in kind of making it to AEW. And it sounds like what he's frustrated is, what he's frustrated with are the people who come after him who didn't have to go through the same journey. And now all of a sudden they're successful, or they think that they're successful, and they're on social media tweeting about certain things. And so I have a vision of who specifically he may be talking about, like as the muse to his statement. But that's kind of what I take from it, which is you young kids didn't have to work nearly as hard as I do, and now you think you're successful when you've done nothing. That's kind of what I sense, that the whatever that generic AEW wrestler is, that is kind of what I sense is in his statement. So he's a little bit of, you know, back in my day, get off my lawn, which I think is an interesting way for him to go, because he himself is not that old. He may be creating you know, an older character than he truly is, for one. But for two, you're creating an antagonist. Like if you're bought in with the BCC and you're like, oh, I'm with Moxley, because some people are like, this dude's a babyface. I'm like, how is he a babyface? And they're like, well, what he's saying is actually true. If he is being truthful and you buy into that, does that make the young wrestlers in AEW the heels? And do you want that to be the direction? Do you want the fan base to go, yeah, you know what, Mox is right. Like, these people didn't work hard to get where they are, and they think they've made it in X, Y, and Z. It's an interesting way to do it. And just, you know, I'm kind of sensing that this is his thing, you know, just based off of the way that it's been put together so far. I'm sure he has a ton of involvement in whatever this becomes. But it's just a very interesting way to make the company and the brand that you work for the antagonist in your, you know, in your big speech. So do you sense that? Am I like way off? Am I reading into this a little bit more closely than most people need to?
No, I mean, I want to know what direction they're going in. And listen, that's an interesting point, right? That we don't know where they're going. And I like that. I always like not knowing. I don't like the the predictability, and maybe in the end when they reveal whatever this is leading to is predictable, maybe not. But one thing that is interesting is that they've splintered a lot of different groups, right? They did the us versus them with the Elite in AEW, and now they're doing it again with Moxley and AEW, right? It's us versus AEW. So I'm curious how this kind of falls into place. Maybe the Elite gets involved when they're taking people out, and now, because they were around when this was going on.
Yeah.
Maybe Kenny returns. Maybe this is a thing leading up to Kenny returning, and he's saying, no, this is AEW. This is a company of opportunity, and blah, blah, blah. And then they have a feud over that. But I hope they continue this, and I hope it stays captivating. I like this story. I like what they're doing. I don't know where it's going to head. Here's a comment. Maybe Kenny's pulling the strings. Man, that would be bizarre and fascinating. I'm into that. It doesn't have to be Shane. A lot of people wanted Shane. I still want Shane, just because I fucking want
just
Shane.
For the chaos.
Just for the chaos. Listen, it may be good. It may be really important. Maybe it'll work. I don't think there's a one solution here, but I'm hoping that they know where they're ending this. I hope they're not going to start piecing it together to kind of buy time or to end up somewhere. But I'm hoping that they know what the ending of this is.
I guess what I hope ultimately is that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, because, when Adam Cole comes out, and the last time we saw anything AEW related, it was these guys putting the bag back over Danielson's head. And then we come into Wednesday and they play the video with Moxley cutting that great promo. And so Adam Cole comes out. I would have liked to see Adam Cole acknowledge the craziness that is happening on TV, but instead he goes right to Max. He cuts that promo on Max. It doesn't make any sort of sense, but how can it make sense? The guy was kind of put in a bad spot because the storylines have switched and they are they're in opposite places now. Yeah. But I think it would have been a nice thing to go, hey, there's some craziness going on here. And I have to focus on my thing, but
do you think they should have continued this and ended it? Or I know it was kind of wonky, but time had passed, right? Because MJF he flipped roles. He turned heel.
Yes.
Do you think they should have kind of explained this and had some sort of closure here? I mean, Cole tried, right? He said, he's like, listen, he's always a bad guy.
Yeah.
The
way that he said the promo made me feel like it's like one of those, how like if you have a buddy and unfortunate breakup, and you can sort of tell that your buddy got dumped, but your buddy goes, you know what? It was both of us. And you're like, okay, dude, like I kind of know that. I know some of this. She dumped you, but you're trying to save face. That's what that promo felt by Cole. It was almost like he was a jilted lover in a relationship trying to explain it. And so I put a comment out on Twitter when we were watching it, and some people thought I was alluding to his ex-partner, which I guess he's come out now and saying that they're actually broken up with Adam Cole and Britt Baker. And I was like, no, I'm not. I wasn't speaking on internet rumors. Like, that's their business. I was speaking specifically on how he was reacting to Max in his promo. It didn't seem like it was very well thought out. Now, he could be rusty. He's coming back. He hasn't been around for a while. I think he's a good talker. That is maybe the best thing about him. So I fully expect them to kind of figure this out. But I want the show to feel connected. I don't want, oh, look, BCC's doing this thing over here, which is kind of influential to everything, considering Moxley's the champ. And then over here, it's like, oh, we're doing our own thing. We don't even care about what's going on. Like, everything should center around the BCC. And I haven't seen that yet, but they have time, and you can fix things, and you can, if this is going to be the biggest thing for the company heading into, the next few pay-per-views, then let's kind of focus it around that. And I think it could be good, but I do worry about the dynamics of healing the AEW babyface locker room by having your big bad champion kind of say that they're the antagonists in a way.
Who are the top baby faces right now? Like real clean cut baby faces.
I think they want us to believe it's Darby, right? They want us to believe
Darby.
They want us to believe Orange Cassidy, but they're going about it in a different way because he's like this not confident guy right now who doesn't want to be the leader. I think a very unique one when he comes back could be Eddie Kingston, though he's not the young talent. You mentioned Kenny Omega already. I know a lot of people want Kenny to be that guy.
Too.
Ospreay is probably the best. If you want to put all of your things into the Ospreay basket, I'm fine with that. It's unfortunate because I think the two guys who fit the mold of who should be the conquering hero are actually Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita, but they're both heels. And so that doesn't really fit. But if you're looking at someone to kind of take the ball and run, who's young, who is over, who is not on, hasn't been with this company for very long and can actually take the ball and go. I think Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita are two of the best guys that you could pick, but I don't think that they're going to be put in that situation. They haven't been around long enough or whatever. You can't skip over guys. MJF is going to be involved in some way. How can he not be? He's involved in everything. So how they balance that out too, with MJF being a part of this universe where Moxley is, threatening everybody is going to be interesting. So they got their work cut out for them. If they can if they can put it together, it could be fascinating. But so far from what I've seen, it's been a little bit like this. I haven't really dug it as much as I had been hoping.
They need a Bryan Danielson. They need to create that guy that is championed by everybody, and they have that. Will Ospreay could be that guy very quickly. I mean, to me, he's a remarkable. I mean, he's kind of heelish, which I like, but he's a remarkable wrestler. He's tremendous. He has a great look. He's connecting with the audience, and that's part of it too. Having a guy like him, if you could replicate that a couple times, you're in good shape.
Yeah, I think my pick, if I could pick someone to be that person, it would be Swerve. But Swerve's character is also unique. It is not like this he's not Jey Uso in how he's over as a babyface. He's over in a much different way. But if he was the guy to dethrone Mox, I think that'd be awesome because I think he can bring something to the table outside of wrestling as well that others can't. But the fact that we're talking about it means it's interesting, right?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see where they go. Very curious.
All right. We're about done here. I could talk to Andrew for another hour easily, by the way.
Give me a drink and we could talk for like 3.
But we do have stuff to get back to. I got to get back to work. Andrew's got to get back to his home life, the kids, the wife.
I got to do homework. I got to do homework with the kids now. Long math. I hate this long math.
There you go. Also, I know you guys have been going through some stuff, so shout out to you and your family. Best wishes to everybody. But we are done here. So for Andrew Zarian, I am Double G. Thanks to producer John. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.